Harriet.
Elaine.
Marie.
Jet. Elizabeth.
Barbara.
Ellen. Janet.
Dolores.
Linda. Angela.
Marianne.
Virgil.
Constance. Lillian.
Cindy.
Stephanie. Ashley.
Smart.
Ida. Kuan Yin.
Ernestine.
Rachel.
Sylvia.
Betty. And for all the women, we keep silent in our hearts, but we remember them. We invoke their spirit. Give us energy that we need. So be it. And now Irene will come up. Is it too early?
Yeah, I think after people,
Joey's in music. I know he did that.
Yeah.
after people want to talk about their own.
That's what you're going to come up for, right?
After people speak. Oh.
Yeah, to introduce what we're doing. Oh,
Here we go.
there we go. There we go. Moving along.
So, today we're having commemorating Women's History Month. Actually, this was a recommendation from the congregation to have a service that honors, celebrates people, women that we hold in our hearts and that we admire. So, if you have the urge or you have the inclination to come up and speak about this special woman, then please do. That'll be a good part of our service. So whoever wants to come first.
No, you go first.
Sure.
Yep.
Still Calvin. I wanted to mention 3 people. One of them who I've immensely admired in my life, one of the bravest and honest women, Eleanor Roosevelt. who morphed into just a wonderful, wonderful person who was so honest about her dealing with people and racism. She was way ahead of her time, racism and bigotry and women's rights, and just kind of told it the way it was in a way that was appropriate. Also, I want to really talk about somebody, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If you don't follow this woman or you just only heard about her, she's one of the bravest politicians in the United States today. She won't be silenced. And I personally believe that she's going to be one of the faces of the Democratic Party eventually. And I'd like to say probably the bravest women in the world are the women who have transitioned or are transitioning. Just think about that. Not being able to be who you really are and being brave enough to stake that claim. It's just one of the most basic fundamental feelings and things that we can have. And these women are brave enough to stake that claim, and to the others who are doing that. That's all.
See the picture?
Back up. You guys were talking about reconnecting. And when you were talking about that, it made me think about reconnecting. I went to William Patterson College in Wayne, and I majored in political science. My advisor, her name was Carol Sheffield, and she was so far ahead with women's equality. Her classes, a lot of her classes were around that. And she was my advisor for 4 years, and she helped, as far as I'm concerned, shape my outlook as far as politics and society and everything else. And now that you guys mentioned your stuff, I want to see if I can find her. Because it's been a long time. I graduated in 1979. She actually put me, it was funny because I was just this like regular guy from Monmouth County, and a lot of people in the political science major where I went were socialists and communists and this and that and whatever. And, you know, I was learning this stuff. But Carol I'm sure she's the one who put my name forward to be in the Political Science Honor Society. And I went to their thing, and all these guys were there, and they said, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Somebody put my name in." But you guys talking about that, she had a big influence on my life. And actually, I've been working for 40-something years. And when I look back on all the bosses I've had over those 40 years, the best ones are all women, just to let you know.
Selling again, but they call me Elena, some people at work, if they speak Spanish. Anyway, and you must try to reconnect with that person. Be prepared for disappointment, however, because sometimes the people you try to reconnect with are 20, 25, 30 years older than you are, especially if they're from college, so it doesn't work. I'm going to be yet another person, and I'm sure there's at least one more, who's going to talk about Eleanor Roosevelt. My mother spoke about her a lot when we were growing up, and one of my most influential teachers here at Toms River High School, Mr. Rich, always said she was twice the man her husband was. And I was able to reveal to Barbara here, when Franklin wanted to divorce her, she said, "Fine, but you keep the kids." And there were 5 kids. So that divorce disappeared. And way back then, a little over 40 years ago, when you toured Valkill, up, just above Hyde Park, you could hear her. You could get the earphones and have an Eleanor Roosevelt tour, and every couple sentences you would hear, but Franklin's mother, and so I guess she was a formidable woman as well. But thinking back, she's such an influence. It was on a trip to see Eleanor Roosevelt's home that I met someone from Ghana who actually took me to lunch at the UN where she worked because she wanted to point out to me how Ethiopians look different from other Africans. So that was interesting. But she also got me involved in, getting books to Africa, even to Ghana. They would bring them on the plane the night that you gave them books if somebody was going over. And also, I think that also led to the volunteer work I did in the 90s for the Lawyers Committee for Human Rights. And that was an interesting thing. But you never know quite where these things, where they lead.
I'm gonna pull it down. This one is right here. Right.
Like that?
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, originally I was going to talk about Eleanor. Definitely she influenced my life because she was the first woman in my life that really supported women that was famous. So, however, there are 4 women that I'm very proud of, and they're my daughters, Lisa, Keely, Lainey, and Roxy, and they're in their 50s and 60s, so they're not kids anymore. So I'm very proud of them. They're wonderful. Lisa is a photographer, Keely is a chef, Lainey is a graphic artist, and Roxanne is a pilot. So, I always encourage them to do what they wanted to do. So I was pretty surprised, everything that came from it. So anyway, my 4 daughters that I'm impressed by.
Hi, I'm Sandy. If anybody finds my name tag, please let me know.
This is mine.
Anyway, the person that I want to discuss, her name is Fannie Lou Hamer. During the 1960s civil rights movement, the civil rights movement was very patriarchal. And in Mississippi, there was a very strong movement in Mississippi to register African American voters. They, in the 1964 election, they voted, they could not vote in the Democratic primary. So they created their own party, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And they nominated their own delegates to the 1964 convention. So the 1964 convention was at Atlantic City. And the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party had to pay their own way up to Atlantic City. And they pleaded and petitioned with the Democratic Party to allow them to seat their delegates because they were duly elected. And the Democratic Party refused. And so they held demonstrations outside the convention center and drew national attention. They drew so much national attention that they made Lyndon Johnson very nervous. And he sent Hubert Humphrey to go negotiate with them. They got some concessions, but not close to being seated at the convention. But I want to just play for you a very short clip from Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony when she went before the Rules Committee of the Democratic Party.
We have to speak without bringing things off of the hook. The Atlantic City to make this challenge to say that, hey, Mississippi actually deserves better. Mississippi deserves to be represented in a full account of democracy. Not only that, we want to hold a mirror not only to our state, but to America to be what it said it could be on paper.
It was here that she delivered her famous speech in favor of integration and where she recounted the harrowing events that she had been forced to face just to exercise her most basic rights. And as this marker notes, we have to speak without telephone.
So I thought it was be more of a speech, but anyway, she talked about when she tried to register to vote, how they would be arrested, taken to the jail, and the sheriff would ask the other inmates, black inmates, to beat them up, just for wanting to vote. So, when we think about who today's leaders, the shoulders that they stand on, there are a lot of people that actually shed blood, and we sometimes forget about that, the sacrifices that were made many, many years ago.
This dog was shocked when he heard on the voicemail when his dog ate.
Hi, I'm Sonia. This will be short and sweet. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Small but mighty, passionate, unbelievably passionate about what she wanted to accomplish and the hardships she had to go through to get that done. But she never relented and she persevered. And the legacy that she now has, she's influenced so many young people. My cousin's niece, my second cousin, wears the little thing around her neck, and she dresses like her for Halloween, and the stories about her, and her legacy is just really something I admire. And I think we should all celebrate Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Thank you.
Well, I've chosen Rosa Parks because when I think of the courage it took for her to do what she did, I just can't imagine it. Boarding the bus after work, sitting in the front, which you could, until a white person came on the bus, then you had to move to the back of the bus. A white person did come on the bus, but she remained seated. And the bus driver in Montgomery, Alabama, said, "You need to go to the back of the bus." And she just said, "No." And he said, "Well, if you and the other 3 Negroes," I'm sure he did not say Negroes, "you need to get up and go to the back of the bus. And if you don't," speaking to Rosa, "I'll have to arrest you." And in giving him permission, in her statement, she said, "You may if you wish." And I thought of that, and she was giving him permission. Well, she was arrested and went to jail for 3 hours, and by one of the Democratic parties at that time, they gave her bail of $100. And then after that, I think a big change was that there was a major boycott of all the buses in Montgomery, Alabama. I don't know, such a simple woman, but really just tired inside of what was going on. Just had the courage to do it, so. Yes.
Did you know she was actually brought to Toms River by Mr. Creel of the History Department of Toms River and the mayor of South Toms River at the time, because Mr. Creel was concerned that there were racial tensions growing. So this would have been the late 80s or so. She was ancient by that time, but they had her speak in several of the high schools. Of course, my family did not alert me to that, so I could just come the 70 miles down to New York to see her, but still.
They say her last words were, "You may if you wish." So, thank you, Rosa.